I'm Katie Couric. Tonight, late breaking news from the White House. President Bush has commuted Scooter Libby's prison sentence, and shocking revelations that doctors were at the heart of that British terror plot. At least 3 of the 8 people arrested so far are physicians, and police are hunting for more bombs. Here at home, as Americans get ready for the 4th of July, more airport searches and more delays. Battling for bucks, with Barack Obama raising more money than Hillary Clinton, here comes a former president to the rescue. Plus, is this a federal office building or an upscale health club? A new report raises serious questions about spending at the Centers for Disease Control.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hello, everyone. We begin tonight with stunning news from the White House. President Bush has commuted the sentence of former aide Scooter Libby, sparing him from serving 2.5 years in prison. Our justice correspondent Bob Orr has been covering this story from the beginning. Bob, what's the latest?
Katie, I have to say, all of Washington is stunned. This happened with great speed today as the president moved just hours after a U.S. appeals court refused to intervene in the case. Now, you might remember attorneys for Louis Scooter Libby had asked the court to allow Libby to remain free while the court heard his appeal. But today the court refused, and Libby faced the prospect of going to prison sometime in the next 6 weeks. That was before the president stepped in and then commuted the prison sentence. This all now means that Libby, the former chief of staff to Vice President Cheney, will not go to prison. However, we have to point out the president's action is not a pardon either. Libby still faces fines of $250,000, and he will remain on probation for 2 years. Now, in a statement just issued by the White House, the president said, and I quote here, "I respect the jury's verdict, but I have concluded that the prison sentence given to Mr. Libby is excessive." Libby was facing until today 2.5 years in prison after being convicted in March for lying to a grand jury and also obstructing an investigation into who leaked the name of former CIA operative Valerie Plame. At his sentencing, the judge lectured Mr. Libby that no one was above the law. Now, White House Press Secretary Tony Snow just a short time ago denied that the president acted under any pressure from all of Libby's friends. Snow said Mr. Bush considered every option in the case, including a full pardon, but then decided that commuting the sentence was the most appropriate course. Of course, administration critics undoubtedly will see all of this as the White House once again taking care of one of their own. Katie?
And Bob, some of those critics, no doubt, will be Democrats, particularly as we approach an election year. They're really going to use this to their advantage, aren't they?
Well, no doubt about it. It didn't take long for New York Democrat Charles Schumer to react. He said that the president's action today amounted to trampling on the principle of equal justice under the law. And that's just the first howl of protest. We'll hear more.
Meanwhile, Bob, is there any precedent for this?
Yeah, there's plenty of precedent. Presidents have been commuting sentences down through the years. We did some quick checks. President Nixon commuted 60 different terms. President Carter commuted 29 sentences, including that of California heiress Patty Hearst. And President Reagan commuted 13 different sentences, including that of former Maryland Governor Marvin Mandel. This is not a pardon. This is not the high-profile pardon like, say, Gerald Ford pardoning Richard Nixon, but this is still unusual in a high-profile case. Katie?
Bob Orr in Washington. Bob, thank you very much. Now, a shocking update to our other big story tonight. 8 suspects are now under arrest in the plot to blow up cars in London and Glasgow, Scotland. And now we've learned that 6 of them are doctors, including one arrested in Australia. So far tonight, we know about 3 of them. One is named Mohammed Asha. He's said to be Palestinian and went to medical school in Jordan. He and his wife were arrested after a police chase in central England. Bilal Abdullah was trained in Iraq. He was said to be one of the Glasgow attackers and worked in a local hospital. A third doctor is believed to be from India. He was picked up in Liverpool. We're covering this story on both sides of the Atlantic, beginning with Mark Phillips in Scotland.
Normally, the victims of terrorism are found in hospitals.
Everybody, please, could you please go? It's a safety issue.
In Scotland today, police have been looking in hospitals for the perpetrators of terror. Doctors from the Middle East working in Britain have become the prime suspects in the wave of attempted car bombings that has swept over the country. In the car loaded with gas canisters that tried to crash into Glasgow's airport over the weekend was Bilal Abdullah, a doctor working locally but trained in Iraq. Arrested in the car stopped by police on a highway in northern England was Mohammed Asha, a doctor trained in Jordan, also working here. He and a third doctor arrested in Liverpool are suspected of involvement in the Glasgow attack and in the 2 failed car bombing attempts in London. 2 more arrests in Scotland today, and police activity at a Glasgow hospital indicate that the latest suspects are also involved in medicine. A robot carried out controlled explosions on cars in the parking lot to see if they too had been loaded with explosives. They weren't. A terror investigation now centering on a hospital. The British may now be dealing with a terror cell of medical professionals who have come here not to heal, but to kill. And in the aftermath of the attacks, questions.
If you bring in people that are professional, highly intelligent, how could they make such a mess of the devices?
The bombs were all similar. Gas canisters packed into a car, gasoline in containers around them. In the case of the 2 London bombs, nails to act as shrapnel. All rigged to be triggered by a call to a cell phone. All failed.
Whatever they were using didn't work.
Their patients may hope the suspects were better doctors than they were bomb makers. Police here are now having to change the profile of the kinds of people they're looking for. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Glasgow.
Caught on a mobile phone hours after the Glasgow bombing, the arrest of Dr. Mohammed Asha. He was driving when the police decided to stop him. Unmarked police cars discreetly maneuvered in front and behind Asha's car. Boxed in, separated from other traffic, they brought him to a halt. His wife was with him, here pictured by the side of the road. She's now in custody too. Mohammed Asha seems a very unlikely terrorist, and although he has not yet been charged, there are suggestions that he is central to the plot to blow up 2 massive car bombs in the heart of London last Friday, and that he may also be closely linked to the 2 men who attacked Glasgow airport on Saturday. Asha is studying to be a neurosurgeon. Today, police searched his hospital offices. Forensic teams are still scouring the house in a middle-class neighborhood where he lived with his wife and baby. Asha arrived in the UK 3 years ago. At home in Jordan, his family say they are shocked. He told us he was coming home soon, says his mother. He'd been buying presents. One of 8 children, 3 of them doctors, Mohammed Asha was such a brilliant student. Queen Noor of Jordan shook his hand when he graduated. He had no interest in anything but medicine, says his father. Intelligence sources tell CBS he had no record in Jordan of involvement in Islamist politics or causes. But he did post a comment on an Islamic website about the controversy over incendiary Danish cartoons mocking the Prophet Muhammad. Asha wrote, quote, "After you insulted our prophet, we shall not forgive you." The urgent question for security services: could he have been a sleeping terrorist? Experts say the West may be facing an entirely new type of threat, and if guilty, Dr. Asha could be key to understanding that. What launched an apparently respectable professional on a path to terror? And what was the catalyst? Katie?
And Sheila, does the alleged involvement of all these doctors raise a whole new set of worries for Britain and the United States?
Well, both Britain and the United States have a shortage of medical professionals, and they import talent. Now, if you bring a doctor into the country, you check their education, you check their background, you do a criminal record check. All of these doctors pass those tests. All were here legally. There is no way of knowing what is in someone's heart when you bring them into the country to apparently work as professionals. Even more important, we learned tonight that it appears that the current head of al-Qaeda in Iraq was tasked in 2004 with setting up a network such as this, finding people who could move to the West and lay low until the time was right.
Sheila McVicker. Sheila, thanks very much. Meanwhile, back here at home, investigators say they have not found any U.S. connection to this British plot. Nevertheless, authorities are taking no chances at the airports during this holiday week. Nancy Cordes continues our coverage at New York City's LaGuardia Airport. Nancy?
Katie, the threat level for U.S. airports has not changed. It remains at orange or high. But that doesn't mean that security hasn't been increased. In fact, people who drive to airports may already be noticing some of the changes. Canine crews conducted random searches of cars arriving at Chicago's O'Hare Airport today. Some cars pulling up at New York's JFK got a once-over, too, while drivers at Washington's Reagan National were quickly shooed away from the terminal.
Gonna stop them over there.
At Miami International, trucks are coming under extra scrutiny, a clear response to Saturday's Jeep bombing at the Glasgow airport.
We're on heightened alert for unattended vehicles, unattended baggage. We screen our airport workers. We're aware of inside threats.
Homeland Security officials insist they have no indication of an imminent threat to U.S. airports, but say they are boosting the security presence at airports anyway, as well as the number of air marshals on overseas flights as the busy July 4th travel week gets underway. All this means travelers may need to budget more time than usual to go through security or even to get to the airport.
The lines are very long. The lines are very long getting through, but I don't mind it because I agree with the heightened security.
Security experts say the attack in Scotland highlights a vulnerability at U.S. airports that has troubled them for years.
U.S. airports are wide open on the non-secure side before you go through security. I mean, how many airports really do a pass-through every day, every hour, every couple hours to look for strange things?
Some have suggested placing concrete berms in front of terminals like this one, or even shrinking the entrances to airports down to just one lane. But there's an obvious trade-off to be considered here, Katie, between convenience for travelers and security.
Nancy Cordes. Nancy, thank you. There is much more CBS News ahead. Coming up next, plasma TVs, a gym, even a quiet room for federal workers. And guess what? You're paying for it.